The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of the Korner Booth podcast. I am your host, Jared Klim, alongside my two amazing co-hosts and my rock star producer. In one corner, I've got with his I love it. Oh, God, the
George Costanza bobblehead.
I couldn't think of it. The George Costanza bobblehead from Yankees. The Yankees game the other night. We also got my boy Chrissy, a very happy Phillies fan. Please, for the love of God, beat the Dodgers tonight. I cannot deal with them anymore.
Yeah, I hope, man. I hope.
I'm pulling for your boys.
Got some hurt bats, so hopefully, we can win at least. Hopefully, we win the series, but we'll see.
Hey, listen, we took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers and Padres this last week. I am a very happy Snakes fan this afternoon. But there's somebody else in the corner. Joining us now from Empire City Media, Fireside Bets and Fireside Yankees, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Garcia. What's up, Ryan? How you doing, buddy?
I'm sports-wise not doing great, but overall, the life outside of sports doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. Can't lie. Life's pretty all right.
Well, I'm happy you are the initial guest of our summer guest series. It's kind of cool having a New York writer on. We have one New York fan, then 2 Philly. I'm all over the place. I really don't count. Nate's Cali and Chris is Philadelphia, so it's definitely a very unique position you get to come out. I know Matt was excited from the get-go for this. So, well, I guess we'll start off. We're talking a little we got to talk about the game last night, man. Luis Gil, one of the best pitchers in baseball the first half of the season, had a couple rough starts recently. I guess that's probably the reason why he didn't make the All-Star team, which I think was a sham. I'm also pissed about Christian Walker losing it to Pete Alonso, but that's a whole nother argument. I will say this, though. The Yankees have been one of the best teams in baseball through the first, I'd say we're past the halfway point, right? Or at least at the halfway point. What's the key as an outside fan telling me, because I'm NL West, I don't care about you guys until October. What is the key for the Yankees with their loaded lineup to fix and right the ship? Because they're still in first place. They're still the best team in the AL East. But now you've got Boston coming up. Toronto's getting better. Baltimore's catching up. Like, what is the key?
Yeah, so, first and foremost, agree on Christian Walker, right? Like, Christian Walker, he's one of the best defensive first basemen, and he hits bombs. Love that man. But getting to the Yankees here, they need a little more lineup depth. They need a third baseman for sure. I think that's the position of need for them right now. Could argue second base as well, but I would rather get one bat and then really focus on the pitching. I think they need a lot of bullpen help. They need probably 2 relievers. That bullpen isn't deep right now. Holmes has really hit a skid, and I think that's hurt them. His last 2 save opportunities, which, granted, came like a month apart from each other, were both blown saves. The Yankees had to lead in those games. 2 wins in a losing streak that you can turn around. Like, if you turn 2 wins into 2 losses, that really kills you, right? That hurts, especially when you're trying to just, get back on your horse. And if they would have won that Friday game, you say, oh, we won the series against Boston this weekend. You feel so much better going into the off day, but you lost that series, and we can't do moral, hypothetical, whatever. You just straight up lost. So bullpen arms, maybe another starter. I'm kind of on the train for getting another starter just to have more, because you can never have enough pitching.
Mm-hmm.
So, the deadline's going to be big for them, but they have to have some guys step up internally. Volpe and Verdugo have really, really struggled over the last month. That's hurt them. Obviously, the starting pitching, like Heel finally turned in a good start, but he had been really rough in June. Stroman hasn't really had a great month of June. Rodon went from one of the best comeback stories to a complete dud in the span of 3-4 starts. They need, and Cole, he needs to get back on track as well. So their rotation, they need guys to turn around, and then they're going to need to have an aggressive deadline.
Who is your ideal? I guess I'll follow up with this. Who's your ideal reliever then? I know everyone wants Nate's boy Mason Miller. Dude has like a 90-something mile an hour power curve. It's just
you can't have him
on tape.
You can't have him.
Nate, you say that, but you guys will sell your own kidney to get more money. So it's more or less like. By the way, shout out to our boy Nate in the background, always being the best producer in the game. But I've been in Nate's position as a team. My team was garbage until about last year when they made the World Series. But you guys have been the aggressors for years now. So I obviously threw Mason Miller's name out there. Are there other, you mentioned the bat as well, are there other relievers or bats you're looking to kind of keeping an eye on? Like, hey, like Brian, like, come on, Cash, let's get these guys up. Like, we can't lose again. We want to at least make the ALCS or something. Like, what is the target?
Yeah, so I really like Tanner Scott out of Miami because he's left-handed and they need guys who are left-handed to help them in the bullpen. They brought in Caleb Ferguson and Victor Gonzalez in the offseason, but they have completely just been awful. Victor Gonzalez got DFA'd. Caleb Ferguson, if you're a Yankees fan, I mean, you've watched Caleb Ferguson pitch. He is not good. He's not good. Scott gives them a lefty. They need a lefty. And another guy I would throw out here is a familiar face, David Robertson. It looks like the Rangers are out of the wild card hunt by a pretty significant margin. I think they're 7 games under 500, and either they're 7 out of the wild card. They're in a bad spot, right? Like at least
Armor hurts, man.
Yeah, they're starting to get it back. You know what I mean? The Rangers, it has not gone their way. So Robertson, I mean, he's a familiar face, postseason proven, veteran, and the strikeout rate 36.8%. The Yankees need to miss more bats in that bullpen, and he would give them a huge boost in that front.
I don't know how you feel. No offense, Nate. I want to stay far away from Oakland A pitching as far as possible after Sonny Gray and Frankie Montas. I know it's a reliever, but I really don't want to try a third time. So I like Tanner Scott and I love David Robertson. I think David Robertson could step into this role and be like a setup man in the 8th. I assume this is Clay Holmes' team, even though I don't know how you feel, but Clay Holmes to me is just, it's like Chapman. I got to hold my breath when he comes in the 9th just because he's going to put somebody on base and I just don't know if he's going to blow it or not. Looking at the infield, like you were mentioning, I think I don't see them targeting a second baseman. I know Glaber's hurt right now. I assume he's hurt. I saw him get pinch hit in the 4th inning, and that can only mean one thing. So I don't think they go for a second baseman because if Glaber's going to get dealt in one of those deals, you got to have somebody to step in that role. And I don't know what Peraza is going to be right now. I haven't seen too much of him. That's a risk to bring up in September to try and take the second base role going into the playoffs. I think the clear-cut answer would be if you were to, let's say, throw Glaber in a trade, because I don't think this team's going to bring him back. I think you go for a third baseman, like you mentioned, and move DJ to second. You got any ideas at third base at a deadline? I've heard names like Arenado, but I don't know if that's going to be something realistic for this team. But any names pop in your head when you think third baseman at a deadline?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously the big one's kind of been Luis Rengifo. My concerns with him are just like, I don't know if he's going to keep it up in the second half. And then defense, he's pretty rough there, but kind of like has everything you're looking for. He could be a leadoff hitter. He has 22 steals. It's one of the top marks in the league. And the Yankees are really slow. They could use that. I floated around like, what if the Giants kind of keep being not great and they trade Matt Chapman? Like, you can pick it at third, and that's important. You need infield defense. You mentioned Clay Holmes, right? Like, the whole thing with it's a little bit of a heart attack is the best way to put it, right? He's going to they're going to get some ground balls. And if you have a good infield defense behind him, you can convert those ground balls into outs. So if a guy reaches on, let's say to start the inning, and then you get a ground ball to the left side of your infield, Volpe's offensive struggles are bad, but the defense has been really good. You get a ground ball to the second or shortstop or third base. That's an out. That's a double play, honestly. Like those two guys can really pick it there. I agree that, second base, I think they'll go internally. I'm going to throw a prospect out that I kind of really like in their system, Jordan Vivas. He's left-handed. 400 OBP in AAA has really gotten hot. I've heard a lot of really good things about him from the organization in terms of his progress. So just floating him out there as the guy, not saying he's going to come up, just putting out there over Peraza for sure. He hasn't really hit in AAA, so that's a little concerning. But yeah, it's very barren. Third base, the Yankees are going to have to get creative. I know McMahon's also a name, but I'm pretty sure every report's basically like the Rockies love him. They're not going to trade him, and they're the Rockies. I mean, there's a reason they have 22 wins.
He's their new generation's Arenado. They're not going to get rid of him. They know he's everything to them. I would say we'll try our best to knock the Giants out with Chapman. They're kind of like nipping at our heels right now at the 4th spot. If you talked to me a week ago, I would have said, hey, listen, we'll give you Geno Suarez for a bag of peanuts because honestly, he might do better in Yankee Stadium than he would in Chase because we got De Los Santos, who's like, I think 3rd in minor leagues all in home runs. So, I mean, we'll call him up. And we got Blaze Alexander too. But now Geno had 5 RBIs less and kind of saved the series for us. Correct me if I'm wrong. Ain't Chapman on a 1 or 2 year deal? Like something that's very short. It was one of those Scott Boras deals, like a signature one. So I mean, like that might work for the Yankees. Christy, what do you got for Mr. Garcia? I'm curious.
Well, I think he touched on like the question I was going to ask him. I was trying to look creative. My question I was going to ask you, if you were the GM of the Yankees today, what moves would you make to, I guess, improve the roster? And obviously you touched on relievers and how you need some arms in the bullpen. But, is there any other moves that you would make? Is there like a weaker position that you think, they can improve on or?
Like
any players on the current roster you may want to deal at the deadline?
There you
go.
That was.
Yeah, Glaber is obviously interesting because it's kind of not the same as Gallo in 22 because Gallo was really bad in 21 and then it carried over into 22. Glaber, I feel like if you're a team, like if you need a second baseman, considering how bad this market ended up being at the trade deadline, you might actually look at Glaber and say, hey, maybe a change of scenery is what he needs. I think you get legitimate value back for him, not saying like a superstar or anything, but like just something more than maybe a bag of peanuts, right? Like hopefully. And that could help you make another trade, right? Like the Yankees got Clayton Beeter for Joey Gallo, and Beeter could help them make a trade right now. So, if you look at Glaber, and I would say his value is a little higher, could you maybe get a prospect that, either you bring in and they make you feel more comfortable trading out of a different position, or you bring them in and they just straight up flip them for a player in a bigger deal? They could certainly do that. I don't think anyone else is really movable because you think of like the big contracts, like, is anyone taking DJ LeMahieu, who has like 2 more years in his deal? He's really scuffled to start the year. He's older. No one's going to eat Rizzo's money. Why would anyone do that? He's hurt. He can't help you. Hasn't hit this year. Or even like, no, I don't even think, number one, no one is going to trade for Stanton. Number two, he has this no trade clause. Number three, he's been pretty good for them offensively this year. So that's completely out of the question. I think it's Glaber. If there's anyone they're going to trade on their current roster, it's probably Glaber.
Yeah, Ben Rice has been I think, been very good since he's come up in Rizzo's absence. I don't want Rizzo on the field. I like this Ben Rice kid. He could even be an emergency catcher. So I feel like Rizzo might play a lot of DH when he comes back if Stanton's still hurt at that time. But you mentioned what was it? I know you mentioned something about possibly another starter. So if they did acquire a starter, what do you think they would do with the current rotation? Would they drop Nestor down to like a long reliever kind of thing, or just to fit the five?
I think Nestor's his start against Boston was really encouraging. He pitched pretty well against Atlanta. He pitched really well against Baltimore. So the recent trends are good for him. That helps because while he's surging, everybody else is slumping. The guy with the highest ERA in the rotation is Carlos Rodon. And it's weird because him and Stroman have guaranteed money. Whereas, as you mentioned, Cortez, you could non-tender him, even though they're not going to. Like, he doesn't have guaranteed money attached to him. He doesn't have guaranteed money. Schmidt doesn't have guaranteed money. So you feel like those 3 guys would naturally be the ones you move out of the rotation. But if you sort by ERA or if you just look at strikeout rates, all that stuff, those are some of your best starters. So you kind of have a tough situation where Stroman and Rodon are the 2 guys who are making top dollar outside of Cole, of course, but they've been arguably your 2 least effective outside, your 2 least effective stars on the year. So it creates this really tough question of, are you going to put guys who have committed money in the bullpen? It kind of reminds me, and Chris, I think you can speak to this too, when Taijuan Walker came back and it's like, he has guaranteed money. Like, you paid him money. It really does raise a question of, do you feel obliged to put them in the rotation? Do you feel obliged to put them in the bullpen? Like, what do you do there? They have a very tough question with what they're going to do with the rotation, even if they don't get a starter. And I personally say my opinion is, I don't care how much money you're making in October. I care about winning a World Series. So, yeah, everyone's happy with the ring. Rodon doesn't mind about it,
I totally agree. Like, and especially like the analogy with Taijuan Walker, like, I remember him complaining to Rob Thompson about not getting the start in Game 7 of the NLCS, and it just, if he pitched, like, it probably would have been, lights out after 2 or 3 innings. He's that bad. But we're stuck with him. He got a little bit of the bag here. But yeah, I guess for me, I can't wait till he's off the books. But I gotta ask also, like, as a Yankees fan, obviously, like, your biggest rival is the Red Sox. Like, past couple years, like, the Red Sox, like, have been, like, really giving the Yankees, like, fits. Like, it's got to be, like, a pain in the ass. Like, and I don't really, I'm a Phillies fan, so I'm looking from an outside perspective. But do you, like, as a Yankees fan, do you hate the Red Sox more than, like, any other team? Or, like, do you have, like, a team that I guess, like, you hate more than the Red Sox? Or, like, you just kind of just, like,
Yeah, make no mistake. It doesn't matter if, like, and yeah, right now the Sox, Judge hits like 230 in his career against them. So, like,
they own Judge and Devers owns us as well.
Yeah, look, it doesn't matter if how many times the Astros beat us in October. It doesn't matter how annoying the Rays are. It doesn't matter how good Baltimore is. I will always hate the Red Sox more than them. 100%. Will always, always, always hate them more than everyone else. Like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I
Yeah,
despise those guys.
I went to a game at Fenway, and, like when the Yankees, because I was visiting a couple of buddies up there, and Yankees were in town, and they went, and like it was just fights after fights after fights, and I'm like, dude, it's like I love it. I personally love it. I love to like passions, like fan bases just going at it, but like, you know, I don't know, like the Yankees and the Red Sox, like it's just that's what baseball is. Like it's the biggest rivalry. It's awesome.
You want to emulate that rivalry. So from like Chris, like you understand this. So my team is more like, honestly, I look at it from a perspective of, we look at the Dodgers, like I guess like the Red Sox or the Rays, the Orioles, look at the Yankees. Like when the Dodgers are in town, that's like a reason to swing. I live in Connecticut. Okay. Like I am not anywhere close to Arizona. I saw a dude wearing a Dodgers hat at a bar. I had a few drinks in me. I was like, yo, it's on site if he says something to me. Like, I'm right here. I had a Diamondbacks jersey on. I'm like walking around. And bear in mind, this is like a day or two after we just swept the Dodgers. Like, this was like, I am riding high. And I'm like, he says something to me, it's on site. And I'm like, we won, and I still wanted to like start some stuff. So this is why but the thing is, wait, we want to emulate what Yankees and Red Sox are. I grew up in this rivalry. My entire dad's side of the family is Red Sox fans. My dad had me put the game on for him last night. My mom's whole side of the family is from Jersey. They're all Yankees fans. So I grew up in the middle of that. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm Arizona. Peace out. But no, it's really cool. And I mean, Chris, I guess to you guys, is it the Mets or is it Atlanta?
Yeah, it's the Mets, dude. The Mets. I mean, it's like people were like speculating that it's like the Braves and it's gonna be the Braves. Like, no.
Well, I mean, the Braves are better.
Braves are in addition, but like we don't like. I mean, I don't like the Braves.
That's like having a rivalry with Wile E. Coyote, though, man. Like they shoot themselves in the foot every year.
The Mets, like we got some like dirty history of the Mets. And I remember Chase Utley they asked them, they wouldn't allow him. I think it was with the London series. They wouldn't allow him to do like something like, I forget what it was, but it was because of the Mets or something like that. And he's just like, I freaking hate the Mets, dude.
I've been to Citi Field maybe 6 times.
Wow,
it's a nicer stadium than Yankee Stadium, the new stadium, because I've been there a few times as well. I would rather go see Yankees Diamondbacks than Mets Diamondbacks, because Yankees fans, they act a little like, okay, you're a poverty franchise with your one title. I'm like, I just yell 2001 every time I walk by if they start saying something. But Yankees fans at least have a little respect for incoming fan bases. You go into Citi Field, I swear to God, they treat you like you just like smacked their mother. They're like talking smack to you the entire time you're walking through. And as an Eagles fan, you'd think I'd be used to that, but it's baseball. I'm with my grandparents. I took them to a game. I'm also a little hungover from the night before, going bar hopping in the city with my buddies who live in the city. And I'm sitting there hungover, and I got 3 Mets fans who are in their 50s talking smack to me in like stupid, doofy looking Mets polos, like chirping at me. And I'm like, if I didn't have my 2 80-year-old grandparents next to me, y'all are done. Like but I went to Yankee Stadium, I think 3 years ago. I was walking around. I mean, the whole card only thing instead of cash drives me nuts, but I can live with that. Honestly, though, the rest of the state, my experience there was very nice. I enjoyed it. I liked the stadium. I'm going to Fenway in, I believe, a month, so that's going to be interesting.
What's the Yankees beer price? That's
it's lower than the Mets, which I found was hilarious, by the
way. You can get a beer there for like probably like on the cheap end. You're probably going to pay like $13. You want a tall boy, it's probably going to be like $15-20.
Yeah, it's pretty generic, I guess. I mean, that's not bad. I mean,
don't buy the cup. It's a sucker's bet.
Now I actually have a question for you, Jared. So, like, Father's Day was like a few weeks ago. Like, do the Dodgers send anything to Christian Walker? Like, does Walker get any? Does he get any cards, anything like that? I feel like at this point, right? Like,
Well, I mean, it's the same thing about asking if the Phillies sent anything to Alek Thomas. I'm not sure, but the thing is, I feel like I think Dombrowski was doing cartwheels when he found out Alek Thomas wasn't coming back until the Dodgers series. But Christian Walker, I don't know what kind of like voodoo magic he set. And I know people who know Christian Walker because I had a buddy who used to work for the Arizona Diamondbacks organization back like in the spring training days when we were all in college. And he told me Christian is like the coolest dude. He's really humble. He's very quiet. But the dude gets in the plate, he turns into a psychopath and just starts cranking balls. And his BP session is like scary. Like you have to watch out because I think his average hit velocity is almost 100 miles an hour. Like everything he hits is hard. There's no, and even his swing, like the torque of it, it looks like if he hits you, it's going to be painful. That series is cracking me up because I should have just put a couple of Christian Walker over/under bets, like +2 home runs, but I was being a chicken. I just kept betting money line. I mean, listen, I cleaned up this weekend, or like 4th of July, and then I have obviously cleaned up, except for that Paul Sewald. I swear to God, I'm going to go gray like him because of how he pitches in the 9th inning. But you know what? It was a great way to go. I had to go to work the day after 4th of July, but hell, the Diamondbacks made it enjoyable because I was able to like enjoy this. Christian Walker to me though he's this weird anomaly. He only hits about 270 a year, but he ends up with like 35 to 45 home runs, and you're just like, and nobody's talking about how he basically has replaced Paul Goldschmidt as much as he could and better. Like I think Paul Goldschmidt's career home run best with the Diamondbacks is 35, 36. Walker's on pace to smoke that. And everyone around baseball is like, oh, Pete Alonso's the backup first baseman. It's like, besides Bryce Harper, there's no better first baseman in baseball numbers-wise right now than my boy Christian Walker. So, yes, the Dodgers should send him a giant, maybe like a scale model of Dodger Stadium, just so everywhere he goes, he can remind himself, I own a ballpark that's not just mine. I think this year he has the second most home runs he has the most home runs by an outside player at Dodger Stadium this year. I think he has the most. I think he has like 6 for the season.
He kills him, dude. He kills. I love Walker. It was so dumb he wasn't on the All-Star game. Like I think he's like, I'm pretty sure there's like this crazy stat with, I think it's outs above average defensively. He has like 3 times the outs above average of second place at first base. So he's 3 over the last 3 years. So he's 3 times the defensive player any other first baseman is over the last 3 years.
Again this year. It's not even
he's going to triple it up. Yeah, 3-time Gold Glove and then 3 seasons with 30+ home runs. I don't know. Is there a player who's ever done that? 3 30+ home run seasons
and never make an All-Star team? Probably not.
Yeah, that's actually, I got to find out if that's the thing. Like who's done that before?
Everyone knows exactly
the All-Star jerseys.
Oh my God, they're gas. They are gas.
You do like them? I don't know if that's controversial. I like them.
I like the American ones.
I like the American ones. The National League ones are going to have to grow on me. I want
vice
a Harper
versa.
one.
Vice versa for me.
It looks like a Marlins jersey before they changed the uniforms back to the old school ones.
I think they should be wearing their regular uniforms on the field though. I'm a big believer. I love that. It's so dope.
The American League ones, I was telling them, to me, I don't know if you've seen the movie A League of Their Own. It reminds me of the Rockford Peach uniforms where it has that like off color, like that off white with the red in it. To me, it looks like that. I just think of that movie with Tom Hanks in it. I just see that jersey.
Yeah. Damn.
But I will give it to him. That National League hat is nice.
$200 on Fanatics.
Yeah, that's not that nice. That's not that nice.
Oh, for a piece of crap quality jersey? Hell no.
Yeah, and it's from Fanatics.
Listen, the one thing that sucks is the new Diamondbacks away alternate, the black with the teal, is amazing looking. But I have the one from 2 years ago, which was still Nike made, not Fanatics made. So it's a better quality. And my buddy goes, "You're going to buy one of the new jerseys?" I'm like, I'm going to wait until they pick the quality up because I had a buddy who bought it was a Brewers. He got a Yelich jersey, and I felt it. We were at the bar, and I'm like, dude, this is rough looking. It kind of felt like, when you're on a travel baseball team and you order those jerseys from some company you've never heard of, and it feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds, but it's paper thin. That's how it felt. I'm like, how is this $180? I was like, I'm not doing this. I won't. I'll just buy a jersey t-shirt.
My favorite with Fanatics is like they'll give you like a price for the jersey. They'll say it's like 25% off, and then like you'll go to checkout, and then shipping hits you, and then you're paying the actual retail price for it.
But still.
Or when they're like, oh, you can't on the move jerseys aren't for sale. And like, what's on the move? And then all of a sudden you find out that the player you want to get because he was just signed with that team or he was traded to that team is on the move. So you got to pay full price. I hate when they do that.
See, if money wasn't an object, I would have a Marte, Carroll, and
get off China, dude.
On the way.
DH gate. It's like $20. Takes a month to come in. Nice. Yeah. I mean, They're fake, dude, but like you can pull them off.
And they won't know the difference.
Exactly.
No.
I think my favorite jersey that isn't a Yankees jersey I have is I got for the World Baseball Classic. I got the DR Machado jersey. I got it like so I waited till it dropped, and I got the hat too. I waited till I was like tracking when it dropped. And once it dropped, I bought one. They sold out really fast too. But dude, that one I love that jersey so much. It's so clean. I love it.
Dude, I'm trying to get a Trey Turner one. See, I've been trying to find I didn't
Those
get it.
Baseball Classic jerseys are so tough, dude.
So
like
clean.
they have so
Nice.
many.
I just want the hat. I don't need the jersey because let's be honest, the last two Diamondbacks to play for Team USA were Merrill Kelly and Paul Goldschmidt 5 years ago. So for me, honestly, I kind of look at it our best players play for other teams. Like Alec Thomas played for Mexico. I think one of our infielders played for one of our outfielders played for Italy. So it was kind of weird when our better players were playing for foreign teams. Oh, and also I think Ketel Marte played for
He was on DR. He was good for
DR.
us.
That's why, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember because I remember when I was a kid, Miggy Montero played for Venezuela and that stuff. So I mean, it's always interesting because I know the Diamondbacks usually have a very diverse when it comes to nationality type of team. So I don't know. The USA World Baseball Classic jerseys always go hard, but then again, my team just went through their 5th jersey rebrand since they started, and it's only been 26 years. Woo!
When's the next one that they're going to do with the World Baseball Classic? Is it they skip every couple years, or is it?
It's every 3 or 4. 3, right? Is it 3? Yeah, 3. Gotcha.
All right, so it'll be
2026. Yeah.
Oh, 2 years.
And then we'll get the Mets fans that come out when Edwin Diaz wants to go pitch for them again and be whole Mets.
It's not going to matter when you guys are eliminated by August. Why does it matter?
That entire incident was so crazy because a buddy of mine who's a Mets fan, right? I was rooting for Team DR because my parents are Dominican, so I was I want them to win. And so he's like, you know what? I think they were down 5-1 in the 9th when they got eliminated. So I was like, I'm not even watching it. I don't want to do this to myself. And so buddy of mine was like, nope, you're watching this. He forced me to watch it. He's a Mets fan, so he's thinking he's torturing me. Diaz gets the final out, and then that happens. So he's like, oh, I'm torturing you. And then it's dude, we just sat there in misery for 3 hours. He's a Mets fan. I'm a DR
I was
fan.
at a bar when this happened. This bar my sister used to work at in my hometown. And it was a little fancier of a bar. It was very upscale. I'm sitting there in nice boot, my nicer cowboy boots, nice fit pressed jeans, nice shirt. And we're sitting there having a drink with my buddy and his girlfriend. What?
You drank with your pinky up.
I was having Manhattan, so yes. But I'm sitting there, and they're not baseball fans. They're sitting there just we're all BSing, and I keep checking up at the screen. And I see Diaz get the final out, whole series of events, and then I see them do this, and then everything gets a little weird on the screen, and I get a text from somebody at Belly Up who goes, dude, Edwin Diaz is hurt. I'm like, wait, what? He just got the final out. Where did he get hurt? And then they're talking about Sports Center when I get home. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, that's the most Mets way to get hurt I've ever seen in my life. There's no other way to describe it than if he was wearing a different jersey, his Achilles would have been fine or whatever he hurt.
It was crazy too because you think about that final out and everyone says he got hurt in the WBC. Yeah, but not playing in it. He got hurt celebrating in it. It was wild. It was this is before I was born, but when the Yankees get Alex Rodriguez because Aaron Boone tears his knee playing pickup basketball in the offseason. That's just I'm not saying how does it happen? It's life. Life happens. But imagine getting that notification. Your third baseman just tore his UCL playing or ACL playing basketball.
Well, then they went and got A-Rod. So it kind of worked out for him. So
for sure. Yeah. It's just sure. Dude, I can't I think some of the injury scares the Yankees have had this year were there was the forearm for Soto, and for a good bit I was genuinely concerned he tore his UCL to the point where it stressed me out so much I got chest pain. And I'm like, oh, am I having heart problems? I go to urgent care. I'm like, yo, can you guys run some test on me or something? Heart was fine. But there's if Soto, there's a good chance. I don't know if it's directly correlated, but Soto basically sent me to urgent care for that one tiny I injury.
I think I was watching that game too.
Dude, I would have lit up his DMs after that, dude. You almost killed me.
Chris, we know you're a future thing of athletes on DMs, but I mean,
I DM everyone.
Listen, I listen. I there was one injury this season for my team where I kind of sat there. I'm like, good. He needs to recollect his thoughts on the DL for a little bit. Mr. Montgomery, who has got a higher ERA than Mad Bum did when he played for us. We want to talk about eating dead money. We're still eating that contract.
Yeah. That was one guy where I really thought Cashman. I shouldn't say that. I didn't think Cashman was going to really bring him back because he said he couldn't pitch in the playoffs. So that's kind of hypocritical to bring him in.
He basically helped the Rangers win the World
Series. No, so he proved him wrong, but now he's just not performing up to par with Arizona.
No, he looks out of shape. Like,
he
I know he's a bigger
funky
dude, but he looks like he looks like Tim Riggins in season 3 of Friday Night Lights. Like, you waiting for him till his beard.
He looked like he's about 25 to 30 pounds heavier than when he was with the Yankees last.
Yeah. I mean, he looks heavier than he was with the Rangers. I mean, like, it looks like he didn't do jack over the offseason, then waited to warm up after his agent signed the deal. I'm like, that.
Yeah.
He may not have done jack, but maybe he was hitting a little bit too much of that jack. You know what I mean? That bottle of jack. Perhaps.
I was listening to a song by John Purdy called Jack. So, I mean, like me and Jack. So that's it kind of fits. But I guess we can kind of switch sports a little bit there, Ryan, because I know you're a Giants fan. Me and Chris are Eagles fans. You knew some of the bullets were coming. So I want to talk about Hard Knocks. I want a Giants opinion. Nate, I love him to death, but he is so bubbly and positive. For us Eagles fans, it's like trying to like drink straight sugar. We're like, dude, how are you this positive about a team that's Micah 0-17? So I'll start off with this. What was your initial reaction watching Hard Knocks offseason with the New York Giants?
I mean, hearing them say, "Oh yeah, like your $40 million quarterback, you don't pay him $40 million to hand the ball off to running back." Well, you pay him $40 million, and he like has never had a 20 touchdown season under his contract. Like, Daniel Jones is unequivocally one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, and it felt like, I mean, look. Granted, I understand that when they're mic'd up, they're probably not going to publicly put out that they think he's bad, sure. But to basically hear them defend his performance, like not even Patrick Mahomes could have performed there. Okay, maybe Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have won a Super Bowl with them, but I mean, gosh, he'd be competitive, right? I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that Daniel Jones isn't a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. I was throwing a fit when they extended him in the first place. I never thought he was that good. You want to praise a guy for beating the Vikings and that secondary, and you guys remember how bad that secondary was.
Barely beating the Vikings. We're talking like last second throw kind of thing.
Yeah, again, and that secondary, like I'm not downplaying how hard it is to play in the NFL. It's extremely difficult. But how confident are you that you could complete a pass against that secondary? It's not high, but it's higher than most NFL secondaries. And then you go face the Eagles, and it's a divisional game against a legitimate contender, a team that actually has a chance to win the Super Bowl. And they don't beat you. They curb stomp you. That tells you that's not a franchise quarterback. A franchise quarterback doesn't allow that to happen, in my opinion. He's in year 6, you know?
The thing is, he looks like the same. So I got 2 stories about Daniel Jones, 3 actually. So the first one is during that game, I had a bunch of Eagles fans in my house and one Giants fan. He's a Giants and Mets fan. He was more ready for baseball season at that point. He was talking about Pete Alonso and a bunch of other crap. But he's like, yeah, I'll watch the game with you guys. That's an excuse to drink, get away from the girlfriend. So the 6 of us are sitting, and one Patriots fan. So the 6 of us are sitting around the couches. We're watching the game. And by halftime, all the Eagles fans are slammed, including me. We're all celebrating. We're like, bring on San Fran. We want that smoke. We're yelling. We're singing Meek Mill before all the things with Diddy came out and all that stuff. And we're like trying. We're just having a good time. And so,
Diddy.
yeah, you know Diddy. Anyway, so we're celebrating. And my buddy, the Giants fan, goes, wait, I thought they're still playing. Don't they cancel at this point? I'm like, I don't know, man. That was the first football game in a while where I literally just turned the game off at halftime. Because the second they pulled Hurts and the boys, I'm like, all right, we're good. Let's let Nate Sudfeld handle the load for the rest of the day, or Gardner Minshew, whoever was our backup at that point. But the second one was, so one of my clients at my day job is friends with the Maras. He told me a year ago, he goes, oh, I just had dinner with the Maras last night. I'm like, no shit, you did. And he goes, yeah, I just spoke to John. Jared, man, he's a big Giants fan. He goes, Jared, man, they love Daniel Jones. I'm like, there's the shocker of the century. And he goes, I'm like, how much they love it. And like, they talk about him like he's their son. I'm like, oh shit. So it's like, like you make
It's gotta
a
be
joke
like the
about
best thing you could
president.
possibly hear as an Eagles fan. Like, I bet when you saw the Daniel Jones extension, if I was an Eagles fan, I'd be like,
Oh my
yes!
God. I was
That's gotta be like
fist-pumping.
watching your team sign a superstar.
My favorite thing was this is the third story. I had Giants fans, including some friends of mine, coming at me about the Hurts contract. And I'm like, do y'all realize how he actually knows how to do math? I was looking at the Jones contract and the guaranteed money and how much you owe him against your cap, and my brain hurt. And so, like, I saw the Jones contract and I saw it stacked up against like Lamar and Jalen and Joe Burrow and Herbert. And I'm like, there's like a bunch of elite quarterbacks, and then there's Jones. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there fist pumping. I'm like, all those years of torture when I was a kid, you guys kicking our butt up and down the field in the playoffs, no more. I mean, we were always you guys kryptonite anyway, but
Let's also point out the Eagles had Carson Wentz, who was going to win the MVP before he got hurt, and basically did 80% of the work into getting them a Super Bowl ring, right?
Mhm.
He was let go earlier in terms of years than the Giants have moved on from Daniel Jones. That is the fork in the road. Like, the Eagles were like, you know what? This guy just isn't good. And we're not going to pretend he's good because of
his
what
numbers
he's
were
done,
better
what he's
than
been.
Jones's were the last.
Right.
So 2019, the year that was kind of like the turning point when they drafted Jalen Hurts, he had an MVP caliber year. I think it was like 29 touchdowns and 3 picks. It was like insane numbers. And he had Greg Ward and a bunch of lawn furniture as his targets.
And won a big game against Dallas to basically win the division. Like,
I know. And then he was going to beat Seattle if Jadeveon Clowney didn't turn his head into a mushroom. So
Yeah, I was at that game.
Yeah, I just
Called
kicked
the
up a
credit
bad
card
memory for
company,
Chris.
said it was a fraudulent purchase. I didn't buy this ticket.
The one thing I will say about the Giants is I keep waiting for the Saquon when he signs with the Eagles moment. I want to see it so bad because if I'm Saquon, I'm watching this series and I am irritated. The way they're in, I hope the Giants understood what they were saying because you're basically telling your best player, oh, we can get Devin Singletary for you. Now, listen, fantasy-wise, Devin Singletary is a great running back. But if I am Saquon Barkley, who may be one of the most talented running backs that's come out of football, and I did rip him for his injury history. But then as I did more research and realized that MetLife is literally where players' knees go to die. Shout out to my mom's best friend's neighbor, Sterling Shepard, whose knee
And
looks
ankles.
He's right now. Or Aaron Rodgers' Achilles. Basically, I look at it like this. Saquon goes to the least injury-ridden field in football behind one of the best offensive lines in Philadelphia. And then gets extra motivation by the GM talking about replacing him with Singletary or Pollard. I was watching the show. I couldn't believe what I was watching. As an Eagles fan, I loved it because I was like, damn. This is almost like the Dallas Cowboys was unwatchable, but at least the Giants, like, they're actually making concerted efforts to realize we're stuck with Jones. Let's make the best. Like, I love the Neighbors draft pick, and they worked on the O-line, and they're going to be good. I don't think they're going to go winless, but Ryan, I'm happy to hear that you are realistic about Jones because I was really afraid going to this interview. I was like, watch, this kid's going to be a Dale Jones like believer, and I'm just going to be like sitting there like, oh, buddy.
No, I mean, I'd rather there are a lot of I'd rather paint my walls and watch it dry than watch Daniel Jones play. Like, at least it can't hurt me, I really, it's crazy because I wouldn't even say this team's going to go winless. They're going to win enough games to be out of a position to get a good quarterback in the draft because that's always what they do. It's this past year they were awful. They were so bad, and they somehow don't end up with enough losses to get one of the top 3 guys.
I will say you guys will. The good news is for Giants fans, you guys will finish in worst place in the division this year because Dallas, as much as they did not help themselves, they're still a 9 or 10 win team. Philadelphia's Philadelphia. And Washington, as much as it's genuinely a head scratcher how the organization runs functionally, Daniels, those weapons, and a new ownership, new coaching staff, they'll win 7 or 8 games, which is
they're
guaranteed.
People.
Yeah, they're going to surprise people. So you're guaranteed to have 5 wins or less, which puts you inside the rankings to go get a Cam Ward or go get some of these other quarterbacks. I believe kid out of Georgia, kid out of Oregon are also possibly coming out as well, Gabriel and Beck. I don't know. I need a college football expert to tell me who's coming out next year. I don't start paying attention to the draft till about November. So at least there's that. So I think the Giants fans, they have one more year of torture. I think they have one more year if they have to sit on their mistake, but this is the year it pays off because you still have 3 more years of control from Malik Neighbors, if not 4. And now you get rid of Saquon's contract. You sign Singletary to basically what you pay for a Toyota Camry. And you get rid of you can opt out of Daniel Jones at the end of the year. So it's not all bleak for the Giants, if you want my opinion as a football writer first, Eagles fan second.
Yeah, my only concern. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I saw Neighbors drop $1,000 at the strip club. I thought that was pretty cool.
Support it, dude. I support it, man. Like I look,
listen,
I know
working girls. You got to let them work. They got to earn their tuition.
Hey, man. You got if you're gonna be he's a player off the field and on it. I like it. You know, he's a little. It's something. And I will say this too. My big concern with the Giants isn't even just straight up having Jones for the year. It's that the same brain trust that thought Daniel Jones was worth that money is now going to be responsible to try to, because you could say it's a GM or whatever, but if it's also the mayor's play a huge role in this. You can't just fire the owner. It's like John Mara's gonna go, oh wow, yeah, Daniel Jones really sucked, huh? Like I guess I was super wrong about that. He's gonna be like, oh well, we didn't put the weapons around him, and then it's the brain trust behind the decisions being around still that I think creates the pessimism for me.
But do you think the Maras are more like the Joneses, where they'll hang on for dear life, or are they more like the Lurie's, where they're like, all right, you're the GM, you do what's right, like kick him to the curb? As much as we love him like a son, Eli and the Manning Academy were wrong. They should have taken Haskins.
Yeah, that's my concern is that I don't know for sure they're going to move on if they have the opt-out. And I think they should. They should. That's why the opt-out is there. And, you know, I think that the GM will push hard. It's interesting because the thing is that we don't know exactly like the extent as to which the owner is involved in football operations. And that obviously makes that difficult. So I don't know. It's just the fact that I don't know. And I think that's the thing that kind of concerns me with the Giants, but time will tell.
Fair enough.
My fear with my fear with the Giants this year is that I'm a big believer in Malik Neighbors. I think he's going to be a fantastic receiver in this in the NFL. So my fear, if I'm not a Giants fan, but if I were, my fear is that he will have like a Eli Manning, Odell Beckham Jr. 2014 type connection with each other, and they'll win 6 games because that defense is going to probably be lights out with that defensive line and everything they have right now with Brian Burns pairing up with Lawrence and Thibodeau. So my fear is that he does statistically fine enough for them to be like, all right, well, he had a pretty good year. You know, he had another like 14, 15 touchdown year. You know, we only won 6 games, but he looked good with Neighbors. So we just got to get him another playmaker and maybe a running back, and he'll be fine. And then they just keep him another $40 million down the drain and possibly another 2023 type season again.
Only savior is that opt-out at the end of this season. I think that is the Giants' saving grace. I don't know how they weave that one in, but allegedly there is an opt-out in this contract at the end of the season. And I'm waiting for Nate to kind of tell me in the comments if this is true or not. But from what I've heard, there is an opt-out at the end of this year where they can get out of this contract. I think that is the one thing that's going to kind of 15, 16 touchdowns ain't going to do it. Now, if he throws like 28, 25, then yeah. Now the Giants may be in a kind of a predicament like, oh, he played great. But I think the Giants have like a top 5 toughest schedule, top 10. Like they're up there. And
how?
I don't know. The NFL schedule makers.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how does that pot? Like,
I don't know. I just remember seeing them in the top 10, and I was like,
crazy.
And they have
My
having
other
a bottom
concern
5
too is like they didn't trade. Like they were willing to let Saquon go, but they didn't trade him at the deadline. So it's like, what are we doing? Like it doesn't feel like they like think long term like that. Like if you knew you were going to start, like you mentioned with Devin Singletary, if you're going to get to the point where you felt like Devin Singletary was a proper replacement, which whole different conversation of itself, why didn't you trade him? Why was he on the team after the deadline? Like why? You want to quote unquote do right by him, okay? But like it's a business, and Saquon would love to have gone and played. You think Saquon's going to go, man, I'm so upset you guys didn't let me stay on this awful team so that I could miss January again. I'm sure he would have been like, man, I would love to have gone to like Kansas City or just any team, honestly, that wasn't the Giants. Like, you don't think imagine if Saquon got traded to Casey. You don't think the guy's the happiest dude in the world? He's like thanking the Mariners at the end of the year, like, thank you for trading me to the best team in the league. Thank you so much.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like, it's mind numbing to me.
Recoup some draft picks in that deal, maybe draft a replacement, things like that. They really went into it saying Devin Singletary is the answer to what we need. In retrospect, he can run and he can catch. Same thing as Saquon, but he is nowhere near as productive and as durable in the sense of just toughness and just that power back as Saquon. Saquon, in different lifetimes, is going to be a better running back than Devin Singletary. But I agree. I mean, if you're not they made zero effort really to bring him back at the end of the year. Like you should have traded him for some sort of compensation on a year where you were out of it. But they just doesn't always seem like they have the plan. Like they've been what the plan that I've noticed is that they've been trying to address the offensive line. It didn't work out with Evan Neal, but they got Andrew Thomas. They did draft Evan Neal, so they're making attempts. So they're looking to get more of a protection for the running back and the quarterback. So I see that plan in place, but I just don't see plans for key players that they let walk. Like they had plans to increase that defense and get Brian Burns on that defensive line and recoup the secondary and everything. But there's just like you lose your best player on that entire team, arguably next to Lawrence and Alex Thomas. And there's just your answer is Devin Singletary. That just can't be a realistic answer. That's not a 9-win, wild card team answer at that position.
Yeah, I need long-term. I need my organization to think not just now, but in the future as well. I need my organization to be capable of doing that. It's not like I'm asking for them to be like the smartest team in the league right now. I'm asking them to do like basic stuff. Like I think everyone would expect. Like you don't think about it in baseball. You go, yeah, my team isn't good. They're gonna sell off pieces, right? Like it's not even a thought process. It's like a guy that's entering free agency, they'll think about trading him or they'll entertain it if they're out of it. Like that's not even. You don't even question it. But for the Giants, I mean.
It's
crazy.
It's a pride thing?
It might be, and it's like, well, like sure, you can kind of call yourself one of the more storied franchises in the NFL, all that stuff. But with all due respect, I mean, the best organization in your division isn't you; it's the Eagles, who just took your running back. I don't necessarily view the Cowboys as a pillar of success, but they were.
They just haven't since I was born. So
right, but they've in the last decade they have outplayed the Giants in every facet, right? The Commanders, it's a different story. The Commanders are the Commanders, right? But nobody lauds the Commanders. Right, but everyone in the NFL is aware that the Commanders are a court jester. But everyone outside of the Giants seems to be aware that the Giants are also a court jester. They have the lowest winning percentage, I believe, since 2017 or something like that. They're really bad. They're very bad. Like they're bad, and they have to at some point realize nobody looks at you as this like, oh, they do things the right way. They didn't trade Saquon.
There's no giant way. There's no exactly culture. It's not
the giant way is a negative connotation. You do it the giant way, you're doing it wrong. That's something they have to wake up to at some point.
Like so, from an outside perspective, this is a rival. I think when I think of the Giants over the past like 5, 6, 7 years, right? I think of the boat incident. I think of OBJ's whatever it was. I think of how they wasted his talent. I think of benching Eli for his streak, hiring McAdoofus as a head coach. I think of drafting Jones over Haskins. I think of like I think it was 2022 when they should honestly have had only 7 wins, had 11 because a lot of those 50-50 ones they got. And it was great. I lost some money on those games. But, a lot of those were like coin flip, they win or they'll lose. But the last thing I think of is just a lack of execution in terms of being a general manager or being a coach or being a quarterback anywhere in that franchise. And it starts, like you said, with the Maras. And like I said, like my client's friends with the Maras. And he said they look at Daniel Jones like a son. That's the first problem they did. I guarantee Jeffrey Lurie looks at Jalen Hurts like a son. But if Jalen Hurts plays like crap the next 2 years, he's gone. So that's the difference. And I think we're going to see Dak playing a different team next year. We're going to see a few other guys just, be shifted out and gone because they don't fit the current direction. And I understand. I kind of feel your pain here, Ryan, because they don't have a long-term vision. Everything's 20 minutes ahead, not 20 years.
Right. I mean, the Eagles had Nick Foles. Did they decide to pay him that ridiculous contract Jacksonville gave him because he won the Super Bowl? No, you pay them for what they're going to be, not what they did for you the year prior, the 2 years prior, right? That is what a smart organization does. It's what an organization with a plan does, right? You have to be a calculated organization. It feels like in so many ways, again, like I'm just asking for the bare minimum from the Giants, and I can't get that for some reason.
Fair.
Going back to what you were talking about before about, you want an organization that's going to think more long-term. So do you feel like the Giants have in place the correct combination of general manager and coach, or do you think there needs to be a switch up at either of those spots?
See, I actually I like Dable. I think Dable's done a good job of getting more out of the roster than, they've gotten. Like, I don't think there's a problem with Brian Dable, the coach. Can you get into, you want to get into the nitty-gritty some of his game calling decisions? Sure, but I think you can do that with every coach in the NFL. I think for the most part, Dable gets the most out of his players, and that's important, right? The year he got out of Jones it's unbelievable. He got that out of him. He got some good games out of DeVito. Even Tyrod Taylor was looking pretty good, even though I think Taylor, he's a fine backup. He just keeps getting hurt. I mean, he's done a good job there, in my opinion. The thing with Joe Shane is that I'm just not sure how much of his decisions are influenced by ownership. Like, Jones being back was such a it's a big stain for me if it was the GM, but if it was ownership, right? Like, then your hands are kind of tied, right? If ownership's like, hey, bring this guy back, and that's one of your objectives, you have to do your job, right? And your job is whatever the owner dictates your job is. So, with Shane, I'm willing to give him this year, obviously. I think it's at the point where I'm willing to let him get a quarterback even. Like, is it fair to judge a guy based on his tenure with Daniel Jones? That feels completely unfair. Like, of course, he can't deliver you a Super Bowl. So I'm fine with those two. I don't know if they're the answers, but at least in Dable's case, I feel confident in saying, like, I want Dable to kind of be here for a decent amount of time.
And you could tell, like, the whole Mara influence on the players type thing, with his decisions, because, in the first episode, right, we saw him discussing with Joe Shane about Saquon Barkley, how, like, oh, in a perfect world, I want him back. But you could tell Joe Shane was like, yeah, but we just paid our QB $40 million, and you want Saquon back. How is that going to work out? So it's like,
why owners aren't general managers. That's kind of the bare bones tax of it right there. That sentence.
Exactly. So it's just like, if it is true that ownership did influence the decision to bring back Jones, it's like, okay, well, that's not Shane's fault entirely. Even though Shane was on board with it, obviously, because he's a GM. In a perfect world, going back to that, maybe Joe Shane wouldn't have brought him back. Maybe just because he won a playoff game doesn't mean you bring him back on a 4-year, $160 million deal. Maybe you do get a free agent quarterback to just get you through last season, and then, if the team did bad enough, draft the quarterback in this past draft. Unfortunately, they didn't, so we're stuck with Jones for one more year. I will play devil's advocate because that's who I am. Jared, said before this segment started how I'm a positive Giants fan. I always am. I approach life from a positive perspective, right? That's just who I am. What do you need to see, Ryan, from Jones this season to say, you know what, maybe bringing him back was the best idea after all? What do you need to see from him? Because I know the three guys in this room, they don't believe it, and that's perfectly fine.
No, Nate, we totally believe. We wanted to stay for another 4 years.
Dude, he's a crumb.
Shut up. We need him to stay.
I don't want to sound harsh about what my expectations for Jones would have to be in order for that to happen. I mean, he'd have to contend for an MVP, right? Like, he'd have to. That's my barometer, right? Like, you either are that guy or you're not in the NFL, right? Like, there are, like, let's look, for example, like Kirk Cousins, right? I think Kirk Cousins is the best barometer of, like, if you are better than Kirk Cousins, you're probably Super Bowl caliber. If you're not, you're definitely not. You just
mid. Kirk Cousins,
right?
like,
you get what I'm saying?
That's perfect. He's like the perfect break-even point. Him and, like, Dak are like the perfect break-even.
Yeah,
exactly. Is Kirk Cousins' worst seasons would be some of Jones's best? And that, to me, like, I gotta be honest. Like, he has to be really, really good. Because right now, if you're projecting for 2024, now Jaden Daniels is a question mark. I understand that, but who would you rather have, right? Because the unknown of Jaden Daniels is more enticing than what we do know with Daniel Jones, which is that he isn't a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. That doesn't say Jaden Daniels will become one, but I'd rather have the unknown of what if he becomes one, right?
Because it's
he's
something
the fourth,
new, right? Something new.
right. He's the fourth best quarterback in his division. You're the worst quarterback in your division. You've got to do a lot. And it's not like he's in the division with like where Mahomes is the top guy. And you're like, oh, well, being the best is just impossible, right? Jalen Hurts is really good. Dak Prescott's really good. But like, if you can't compete with them, right? It's not that he can't beat them. It's that oftentimes we get some really ugly games against them and not in our favor, right? The Eagles usually stomp us out when he starts. The Cowboys stomp us out when he starts. I gotta get an MVP caliber year, not an MVP winning year, but an MVP caliber year. That's really my barometer. If it's good, not enough. If it's decent, it's definitely not enough.
Hypothetically, how much of that barometer of MVP is influenced because he was drafted so high back when he was? Is that part
it's
of
not
it?
so much where he was drafted. It's just that, like, to win in the NFL, I think I need a star at quarterback. I need a really good quarterback, or I need a guy making nothing who is complimentary, like making absolutely nothing. So The problem with Jones is that, like, okay, are you sure he's better than Brock Purdy, for example? I don't think he's better than Brock Purdy. I don't know, dude.
It's closer than you think, but Brock Purdy's better.
Right, but like Brock Purdy, you're like, okay, like that kind of philosophy, like, could he do that? Well, maybe, but the problem is Brock Purdy makes nothing. Daniel Jones makes $40 million. He's like, I forget what the exact percentage is, but he's one of the largest.
20.3 or something, like really odd.
Right. So you either have to have the greatest draft of all time, or Daniel Jones has to take the biggest pay cut of all time, because you just can't build the roster necessary to contend if he's making that much money. So it's like you can say build out the offensive line, build out your receiving core, build out your defense. Well, sure, but like, how many teams are built like that, where they're paying their quarterback a ton and they're paying the defense? And you know what I mean? Like, the Chiefs are flawed in some areas. They have to cut back at receiver to make sure they could keep some of their defense pieces in line, right? Or their offensive line intact. That's why they trade Tyreek Hill.
Their head coach compensates for that.
Right. With the Eagles, like they had obviously Kelsey retire, but they retire. They draft so well. When they lose it, when they have a cap casualty, it's replenished, right? They've got somebody.
Yeah, they lost Hargrave. They go get my boy Jalen Carter. They
need corners. They draft two of the best corners, if not the two best corners in the draft class. Like, that's just what they do. The Giants, they haven't drafted well enough to do that, number one. And even if they do, again, you still have 20% of your cap locked into your quarterback, and he's not a talent elevator. Like, his neighbor's going to be better because of Daniel Jones.
Exactly.
Right? Like, it's that kind of thing.
Ryan, I could talk Giants and NFC East football with you for about 4 hours, but we do have to talk about one more sport before we get out of here. So let's talk about a sport that may be a little more positive. I mean, listen, Eastern Conference Finals, not bad. No, Eastern Conference Semi, sorry. Did not want to rub salt in the wound. I made a mistake. My team got my butt kicked in the Western Conference Finals, so I feel your pain. Being a Timberwolves fan. I will say this, though. Brunson, and then you went and got Bridges, and, OG Anunoby's coming back. How are we feeling about the Mecca in New York basketball right now after free agency? I did say the Knicks won free – no, the Nets won for that. No, wrong East team. The Sixers won free agency. The Celtics stayed at the top because they retained everybody. But the Knicks kind of just were like, hey, I know we made the first move, but it may have been one of the best moves. But they're kind of like, everyone kind of glazed over what they did to talk about all the other teams. But how you feeling post Knicks free agency?
I mean, it hurts to lose Isaiah Hartenstein. I feel like he was super important to what they did defensively. They'll have to upgrade at center. Walker Kessler, somebody they're targeting in the trade market. I think that'd be a really nice pickup. But it's not like Mitchell Robinson's a scrub. Mitchell Robinson, he was really good in the playoffs as well. The question is just the injuries. It's always injuries with him, but the talent's there. Mikal Bridges, I think, fits the team like a glove. They needed a secondary wing defender because of the way that the East is structured. You talk about the Celtics. They mowed through the postseason, right? They kind of just clobbered everybody in front of them. And I mean, you need to have the wing defense to try to stop Tatum and Brown. You need wing defense to now stop the 76ers, who, Paul George, we can say what we want about him in the postseason, but his gravity and his presence will certainly create less pressure for Maxey, less pressure for Embiid. Maxey was unbelievable in the playoffs. He's got an unbelievable motor, unbelievable three-point shot. He's a remarkable player. Embiid, I mean, it's Joel Embiid. He would have won MVP if not for injuries. I don't like them, but I don't have to pretend like they're not good. I think that's kind of my MO there. You know, and then again, you still have, I mean, the Pacers beat you. You have to give them their props there. But I think this team, if they can keep together healthy with Anunoby and Bridges on the court, their defense is going to be remarkable. Offensively, they've got so many shooting threats. DiVincenzo could not come off the bench and be their sixth man. They needed bench scoring. That's going to be great. McBride, he really took a step forward in the postseason in the second half. I'm really excited about him. Still have Josh Hart, great, you know, just versatile player all around. I feel really good about the Knicks this year. Now, I don't think they're better than Boston. I think that'd be unfair. Boston was unbelievable, right? You have to prove yourself. But they've certainly gotten closer. They've gotten closer, and that's all I can really ask for.
There you go. All right. And sorry, Matt, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was just looking at the questions that I had written down. So with the Knicks, you know, you lose Hartenstein, you get Bridges. They had a phenomenal year last year. I think they could have went further if pretty much their entire starters minus Brunson and Hart didn't get hurt. So with what they have right now, and if everybody can stay healthy, what are your thoughts for the 2024-2025 season? Do you think they are a finals contender? Do you think like they have everything you need, or you think there's something else that they need in order to get over that hump?
So, you know, I think they'll get to the Eastern Conference Finals if they stay healthy. But again, I got to give respect to Boston. They are that good, right? Like, you're a contender, but like Boston's still going to have a really significant edge over you. I think they need to improve their center depth. They need to do as much as they can to load up with this roster, because Randall will be a free agent soon. You know, that increases your cap, that decreases your ability to have depth in your bench, right? The more expensive your star players get. It's kind of like the NFL too. Like, the more expensive your star players get, the less good role players you can have on your team. Brunson may take an extension now instead of next year, and that would save the Knicks a lot of money. I don't think he owes it to anybody to do that, but if he does, that would obviously be sick for the Knicks. You know, I'm a big believer in players. Go get your bag, right? You know, teams are ready to cut you, so go get your bag. Go make your money. But I think this team's more than capable of contending in the finals. They've got what they need, but East, you got Celtics in front of you in the Western Conference. I mean, obviously Timberwolves, that's huge. Defensively, they're incredible. And you've got the Nuggets, you've got Dallas is still there. You've got so many really quality teams in the West. So, you know, it's not going to be a cakewalk. You know, there's a lot of hype. I'm very excited, but I understand that the road ahead of us is extremely difficult.
There's a wild debate that's been going. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off. There's a wild debate going on that it was mostly towards the end of the basketball season this year. Jalen Brunson, is he the best athlete in all of New York right now? And we're talking Judge, Soto, Aaron Rodgers. Like, is he number one on the Mecca, or is he number two behind any of those guys?
So I'm going to have to still go with Aaron Judge. What he's accomplished at the major league level, he could be a two-time MVP. You could argue he should already be a two-time MVP in 2017, but I'm not going to go, you know, that far. He's arguably the best player on the planet. So, you know, he's the best hitter on the planet, most definitely. Like, I think Ohtani is probably better, but like just pure hitting, like Judge has that. What Judge has accomplished at the major league level, I think, just kind of surpassed what Brunson has. It's like 6 or 7 years of Judge being that good. Brunson, he's got, you know, I'm not trying to discredit Brunson. It's just more so what Judge has done, his sample size, it's massive, right? So I still have Judge as the best player in New York, but Brunson certainly rocketed up that list.
All right. So, Chris, I will ask you can say no to this, but you did write some very good questions before to finish off the show. You only have to say a couple of them, but Chris, being our resident comedian, if you don't want to read them, I will read them for you. If you want me to, it's okay. You get to pick your litter. These are rapid fire questions for Ryan as a New York sports fan, and Chris is going to ask them at random. They have to do with all the sports teams. So, Chris, the floor is yours, my friend.
All right. So, I just went off the ball here, went off the good noggin. This one, I mean, a couple of these are just kind of New York based. They're not really New York sports based. But I got to ask you, like, you know, New York is known for pizza. What's the best spot? Well, not just pizza, but what's
number two?
I would say, in your opinion, the best spot to get a slice in New York.
That's okay. So I had a place where I lived when I used to live in Queens that I really, really was a huge fan of. It was Vincent's. They were really good. I had a pretty good price on their slices too. There's a spot on 44th Street. It's not Two Bros. Two Bros is good cheap pizza, but that wasn't my go-to. It was called Kiss My Slice. They had two things going for them that was great. Cheap pizza, and they had really good buffalo sauce, just like a condiment you could just pick up and throw on, like the way you would throw on like, red pepper flakes or whatever. And it was special. Like I'd walk in there, get my 2 cheese slices. You could do a combo where you get 2 cheese and a drink, $5. Grab the bottle of buffalo sauce, drench my slices, walk out of that place, enjoy. Life is good. You know what I mean? I don't think the prices have changed much either, and it's been a few years. So, they just, it's consistent, it's cheap. Those are the two things with pizza. You shouldn't be paying top dollar for pizza. I promise you, the pizza slices that are costing, $3 or $4 a slice, they're not much better than they're sometimes not even better than the cheaper alternative. So yeah, kiss my slice.
I went to the school in New York and New Haven, man. So I went to the pizza capital of the world according to Dave Portnoy. So
I don't know about that. It's still New York for me.
Listen, I love New York pizza. I grew up. My grandparents live in New York. I have family from Jersey. I grew up all around New York style pizza. But man, there's something different about New Haven, man.
It all depends where you were born. Wherever you originate from is where you're gonna take most liking from.
Except Chicago pizza isn't pizza; it's a casserole. But that's
exactly. Detroit style pizza is like amplified mushroom pizza.
Yeah. Detroit style. Also, apparently, Rhode Island style pizza is a thing, and it looks terrible.
It's delicious, though. It's delicious.
It's
just there's no cheese. It's just literally dough and really well made sauce. It's really good. Yeah, honestly,
it's breadsticks dipped in sauce.
Relax. Don't get on your high horse.
But I will say this: just because I call certain pizzas not pizza does not mean it's good. Breadsticks with sauce on it sounds awesome. Objectively, it may not be pizza.
The they make it very heart with a little sweetness and savoriness to it. It's very good, and you eat it cold, which throws you off. No. But honestly, my aunt and uncle are from Rhode Island. They live in Mass now. They bring it to every family event because they live just across the border. Dude, it is just really good as an appetizer.
Chris, ask the A-Rod question.
Okay. Wait, you say A-Rod?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. Should A-Rod be in the Hall of Fame?
Mm-hmm.
My answer is he served a suspension for PEDs. I understand why he's not in. Right? Like I understand why he's not in. It's one of those things where like I think he would have gotten in without steroids. Like if he played his career without steroids, I think he would have been that good. He's one of the most talented players to ever play at the position at shortstop or even third base, whatever you want to call it. I will understand why he's not in. I will understand it. I think if you serve a suspension, I don't think you should be in because I think, that's a fair, I think that's a line to draw, right? You know what I mean? He got caught multiple times. He could have stopped and he didn't, you know what I mean? Had he stopped in the early 2000s, I think he would have ended up getting in. I think good grace and I think time will wear off on PEDs. I think guys like Bonds and Clemens will get in eventually. A-Rod kept dipping in that pool, right? He knew what he was messing with. That's on him. Like I love A-Rod, but I fundamentally understand,
So let me ask you this then. So I am of the school of thought Major League Baseball profited off of the steroids. They made so much money off of this. They have no right to stick their nose up at a guy who basically helped them make more money by hitting more long balls, especially a player as influential as A-Rod. Maybe I have a little bit of an axe to grind because besides Randy Johnson, A-Rod was my hero growing up playing third base most of the time. So I looked at Major League Baseball and the schmucks in the organization, in the commissioner's office and the writers, like, yeah, you guys can sit on your high horse, but the game wouldn't be as fun without him. So,
yeah, I think if Bud Selig's in the Hall of Fame. I think it's bad that he's in because he oversaw all of this. And speaking of A-Rod, like being my hero, like my first jersey's hanging over there. It's an A-Rod jersey. Like I'm a huge A-Rod guy.
Second one was A-Rod.
It's just like for me, it's just I understand. You know what I mean? Like I get why he's not in, but to your point, like, yeah, all of these people who benefited off of it, that now they turn their blind eye to it, like, oh, we hate steroids, all that stuff. Well, you didn't hate it when you were raking in the cash, when it was the home run chase, and you were, box office for that. Bud Selig, when he was overlooking this stuff.
The mafia boss.
Right. Bud Selig can walk away and say, oh, I helped bring baseball back. No, you didn't. Steroids did. You just let it happen.
Yeah.
If A-Rod didn't sue the MLB when we all knew he was guilty and then throw Francisco Cervelli under the bus, maybe.
I think his number would be retired by the Yankees if he didn't have that whole feud with the Yankees. I genuinely think it was just the bridges he burned.
I think it's utter BS that they let Joey Gallo wear 13 or any player wear 13. I'm sorry.
I think it cursed Gallo. Gallo's never been the same since. I actually think it cursed him. Like I think it was a curse.
It's why nobody wears 25 for the Eagles. It's a cursed number.
Yeah. I don't know if it should be retired, but I don't think Gallo should have gotten it. Like I think you give it to the stud. It's like one of those like Gardner Volpe asked to wear number 11. You know what I mean?
Yeah, give it to Spencer Jones.
Right, you give it to like you could. I think A-Rod would give the blessings like a Dominguez, right?
Yeah.
I think you should ask A-Rod like, hey, what do you think? That kind of thing.
Speaking of Yankees, I was gonna say Derek Jeter's known to get around the ballpark a little bit. Do you have a ranking of like his top 5 girlfriends?
I have the list up here if you need it.
Yeah.
Jessica Simpson's number 1.
So here's what my answer will be.
DJ puts it down.
Derek Jeter, like one of his greatest accomplishments is just his roster, right? You know, his roster is incredible. You could argue the talent he's played with on the field, but the talent he had off the field, I think it surpasses it. And he played on 5 championship teams.
Hall of Fame, man.
Yeah.
Dog.
I don't think I'm good. My PR team will my PR training will kick in, and I don't think I can.
As an outsider, I'll answer for you.
Yeah, you can. I think I'll agree with your list.
Well, boys, we'll do mine just because I feel like we got to bail Ryan out so he doesn't get in trouble from his job. So number 1, obviously, it's his wife Hannah Davis. Number 2, we're gonna go with a classic here. We're gonna go with Jessica Alba. 3, Adriana Lima. 4, no, we're gonna go to 3, Jordana Brewster. Number 4, maybe it's because I was just watching Friday Night Lights, Minka Kelly. And 5, let's go with Christmas's favorite daughter, Mariah Carey. There you go. There's your 5 right there.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I just again, he has a Hall of Fame lineup. Also, it's not job. I will clarify.
Gavin Union, Tyra Banks.
I think my job would be perfectly fine with it. I got a girlfriend. I don't want. I got no.
You don't want that smoke. Got it.
I don't.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you also. Speaking of New York, Lady Liberty, how many bodies do you think she has?
Jesus Christ. And on that note,
I don't know. That's a great question. I have.
Dude, I mean.
It's a good question.
We got to plug your sponsor. Shameless sponsor plug. Thanks, Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris's penalty box is presented by the amazing people at Righteous Felon Beef Jerky, craft beef jerky, amazing flavors. I have my next box coming in for my trip to Ohio for the Fantasy Football Expo. You can catch me, the boys from High Low, and a few of the Belly Up personalities there live in Canton. Promo code Belly Up for 15% off your purchase at checkout. My current favorites right now are the Maryland crab flavor, which is the Maryland Monroe. I can't remember the other one, and the bourbon infused jerky, which are both great. And as a bourbon connoisseur that I am, phenomenal. Oh, and the original hickory is incredible as well. Righteous Felon, official sponsor of Belly Up Sports, the Korner Booth podcast, and Chris's penalty box. Chris, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Buddy, I had to plug it at some point. I was waiting for you to say
like
something out of pocket. That's kind of why I wanted to do the segment.
I'm pretty.
I got 3 more in the chamber, dude.
I know you do, pal. That's why I had to get it out of the way early.
All right, I got one here. Ryan, so this may or may not be a true story, but one time I got spiked at a party from Spike Lee. Thoughts on that? He spiked my drink.
Damn. I mean, I've got like I remember my first frat party. Like I thought Jungle Juice was like didn't have alcohol in it, and so I like downed 2 or 3 of them, and I'm like stumbling.
My name after that vodka soda.
Oh man,
dude! I stumble out of that thing. I'm like, I'm the champ. Yeah.
Dude,
that's a way to be like, I want to be sober.
Oh yeah, that was introduction.
My worst is out drinking a girl with daddy issues. That was my mistake.
Dude, I got one more. So my nickname in college was Linsanity because I had sex 4 times in a week. Is that legacy?
I think if I think that's an all-time legacy to have. That's an
Sometimes at
all-time
the end of the
legacy
show,
to have.
'cause
Different-
I would
It's
tell my
46
kids about
rings.
that. No joke. Like if that was, I would tell my kids about that. Like no
different
joke. That would
different
be-
people, like different women
Is this
each
like a
one,
How I
or
Met Your
same
Mother
one 4
episode?
times.
Yeah, dude. Like wait.
Oh
So
my
yeah, great question.
God.
Was it different? Was like same repeat, different? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was different. I was nicknamed Mr. Worldwide after that.
Nice.
Damn. So like even so, you went different backgrounds. You were scoring on different.
They were from all different continents. That's
It
why
was
he
a big
Mr.
game.
Worldwide.
It was a big game of duck, duck, goose, Ryan.
That's awesome. That's incredible.
Oh my god.
That's
And they all got
I-
you.
Oh
That's-
my
that's
god.
They all got
incredible.
you.
I'll put that
They
up
all
with
got
Jordan's
the
6
goose.
rings.
Dude, I'm putting that on my resume. Like if I like applying a job, like I had a Linsanity run in college. You know,
Strength.
Yeah.
Linsanity run for a week.
Oh,
Gosh,
yeah, no,
they
this
all
one
got
time,
your
so
goose.
I speak Spanish, but not great Spanish, which is a problem because
Oh,
I tried
dude,
to.
that's
I tried
such
to.
an in.
Yeah, but the problem, this one time I was at a party and I tried to tell a girl, like, I don't like, do you have a boyfriend? But instead of saying, do you have a boyfriend? I said, I have a boyfriend, but I was yelling it. And so she's like, what? Why are you telling me that?
Oh my god.
Dude,
And
that
I was like,
rolls.
no, wait. I was like, you don't speak Spanish. She walked away and it was,
That,
Well,
that
my
rolls.
favorite was I've got a big Polish eagle tattooed on my right shoulder right here,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a girl. She saw the tattoo, and it was like we were at this tailgate party. I wanted a tank top. I got a tattoo out, and she's off the boat from Poland, like first
Oh.
generation. And Matt, it was in the middle of the townhouses. And so she's walking up to me. I'm like, I've had about maybe 9-10 beers, whatever. I'm feeling great. And she walks up to me. She starts talking to me immediately in Polish. And I recognized about 8 words. And I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, sweetheart, listen, unfortunately, I came from a very Americanized Polish family. My grandfather banned Polish in my house. He shortened the Polak right out of my last name. Like, it went from Klimkevich to Klim real fast. Like, and she starts laughing. And she goes, that's cute. I got her number, but I swear to God, she looked at me as like the Americanized Polak for the rest of the time I know her because this girl's last name was Wizanowski or something insane like that. I'm like with 18
Mike
letters.
Wazowski? What?
Mike Wazowski. No, but she was a really sweet girl, and it was really funny because she was born in Warsaw and came over when she was like 7, and she was with her parents, and she was like spoken fluently. Had a
She came
couple.
with history.
Yeah, no, and it was really funny watching me look like an absolute ass in front of her. I'm like, I know about 4 words, 2 are cheers and 2 are curses. That's it.
I always teach like my friends, like, especially when I was playing baseball, I always teach them the Spanish curse words because of course I would. I will. Some of them I can't repeat, but you know, well, they're in the chamber. They're good ones.
We can save them for after the show because we'll end this in about 45 seconds to a minute. So we're all good.
Yeah. No,
But-
for sure. Yeah.
But before we go, Ryan, at the end of the show, all of our guests get to plug their outfits where they're working. So Ryan, everyone loved your content today. Where can we find you? Your awesome company. Where can we get all this stuff?
Oh, you big screened
I did big screen them.
him. Professor Ryan.
So you guys can follow me at Ryan Garcia SM on Twitter. Obviously, I do Fireside Yankees podcasts, the Yankees, all that stuff. Fireside Bets, we do betting content. Empire Sports Media is kind of the website where all that stuff is on for writing stuff. And then I do a baseball podcast called Caught Looking. The links to that are all on my Twitter, so you can just check out my Twitter again at Ryan Garcia SM. And yeah, thank you guys so much.
No problem, man. We appreciate you having on. Shout out to our boy Nate for locking this up for us. Nate dipped out obviously because he's the busiest man in show business apparently. But for me, Chris and Matt and Nate, you can find us at all things Korner Booth Pod. That's on every social media site, every YouTube channel, whatever. This show, obviously, the replay will be available on YouTube. Shout out to anybody who watched on our Twitter and our Instagram as well. We'll be back Thursday for the Korner Booth pregame. Ryan, is what we have not explained this to you yet. Korner Booth podcast, where we get a little more intricate, a lot more sports heavy, a lot more analysis. Thursday is when you and the boys roll up to the bar. The only rules are no F-bombs. That's basically the show. And so
I get real sloppy.
yeah, and I'm watching my cat try to eat my documents folder right now. So Ghost is making an appearance because he was eating my gun permit folder and my car insurance folder. So you're not going to do that anymore.
50%,
That being said,
50% on car insurance.
Yeah,
Boom.
right. I actually do have progressive, which makes it even worse. I don't have the snap.
You don't have the little lizard. You don't
No,
gotta
I
get it.
don't have the lizard because also
I got the lizard.
that goes really overly expensive.
Yes, there.
Stop eating my freaking folders. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this has been an amazing show. Ryan, thank you so much. Shout out to our sponsors, cannabis.com, promo code BLACK20 for 20% off. The best alternative on the market to tobacco dip products. As somebody who dipped for years, I can wholeheartedly endorse it. I've got my next order on the way because it is the summer. I do have wiffle ball tournaments for me and Matt coming up. I got to be dipping at least 4 pouches at once or else I ain't doing it right. That being said, also shout out to our other sponsor, SeatGeek, promo code BellyUpSports for $20 off your purchase at checkout. Just grab some Whiskey Myers tickets and Diamondbacks Red Sox tickets as a Father's Day gift for Papa Klim. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great week. Show will be uploaded to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and Spotify within the next hour and a half. Shout out to our sponsors. Shout out to Ryan for spending the day with us. And we will see you guys Thursday. Peace out.
Love you guys.